Everyone, welcome again. I hope you had a good holiday. We want to quickly mop up, like we always do, with our discussion that we had on Locke's reaction, or if you like, an empiricist reaction that we can give to the theory of innateness. We had a good discussion last week. I shared content at the resource tool that I want to share, quickly glance through to make sure that we have captured all, like I did with City Campus last week when I met them in person. Okay. So we'll quickly look at that. And then if there is need to engage further on it, we'll do that before we do today's discussion on Descartes. What makes Descartes a rationalist? Is there anything that we think? And that one, I don't think we'll spend too much time on it. Then you will do your interim assessment over the weekend. Keep your Saturday morning between 7 and 10 open for the interim assessment. We are still settling on using UGCS systems to do the on-site online assessment, so that within days or so you can have your feedback after the exam. I don't plan on, like I already told you, bringing you to a lecture hall in person to come and use answer booklet to do interim assessment on what we've done so far, and then to take us weeks to grade those before you still go and do a final exam. I mean, that's too much work. We can examine you in a more efficient way and yet less cumbersome. Okay, so you want to keep your Saturday, 11th of March open. If it turns out that I'm still settling on one or two discussions with UGCS, but they wanted to bring it during the weekday, but that one I think can be problematic for others who may have clashes. We don't want makeup of a makeup, that kind of long whatever. I don't want us to have that. So if they don't get us the Saturday, I mean, if machines and laptops and spaces are not available for the Saturday, 11th of March, we'll have a plan B. But so keep your Saturday, 11th March 2023 opened. I'm talking about between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. Keep it open. Don't put anything there. You already know that you had an IU on the Saturday. But now I'm giving you a time frame too. I'm thinking that early morning like that will help. If you have to do a wedding or funeral or something, you can still do that 1 hour quickly in between 7 and 10. Do a quick 1 hour, and then you can go and attend to whatever is important to you. Okay. Either on site, or I'll give a fixed time, we do it off site at that time. I really don't want the off site if I can avoid it, so that you come with a little bit of control and then get the work done. But we'll see. So keep that time open. All right. So on your screen, unless there's any question, let me quickly find out if there's a question that someone wants us to address. Is there any question? Raise your hand, please, if you have a question. Any question at all? I'm glad to trash them out quickly for you before we move on. No question? I'm waiting. I don't want to brush you aside if you have a question. Okay, so this is what I pulled from Sakai. You saw how I pulled it. It is in your resource too. I shared it with you, just by way of recapping the discussions we had on Locke's possible reaction to the theory of innateness as presented by Descartes, by Plato, sorry. Okay, so Locke, or if you like, an empiricist reaction to this idea of innate ideas being the source of what? Truths that are known independently of experience, being the source of a priori truth, which rationalists like Plato allude to. They make a case that we can have such a priori truth known independently of experience, sourced outside of experience, sourced apart from experience. How did we source them? They don't say by intuition or deductions like Descartes, for example, to say, but they say we have it. Who is the day here? Plato would say that we have it, or, as part of what our rational nature. So we saw the innate knowledge thesis, innate concept thesis, and how we say they are innate, they are inborn. So this is what the reaction could be. On your screen now. You see the highlighted portion. Locke's observation. Yeah, there's a certain viewpoint about this claim of what innate ideas, that they are what accounts for what self-evident truths that are self-evident. They don't need further ground. They don't need to be grounded. You don't need evidence to accept them. That's why we say they are self-evident. They themselves are the evidence of their truth. So they don't need premises or justification. Now, when you asked someone like Plato how it is that such self-evident truths are accepted to be true without any, if you like, justification of it, can you say, oh, because we know them innately. So John Locke and others like him want to critique that. They want to say that, well, we could so you look on my screen now. It says self-evident truths, as they were frequently called, had constituted the basis of what? Or foundation for many of the popular doctrines. Popular doctrines that have been claimed by scholars and other people, the masses, says John Locke. He says, who are these masses? People who don't want to think for themselves. They don't have an inclination to ask pertinent questions. They take it to be that if there is any self-evident truth at all, a truth that doesn't need further explanation at all, or further justification at all, then it means we know such a self-evident truth innately. He says I want to be charitable the way it is presented. Okay, he says they just don't want to think, so they take it to be that it is already there by our nature. But he says there is better way of accounting for what? Self-evident truths that do not need any further, if you like, justification. You could account for them differently than just saying that they are known innately. You recall, Orisha Dennis, I just disabled your mic. You'll recall that we had a discussion, an extensive discussion on this. This is a reference text put there to help bring life to that discussion we had. He says, if we were to even take it to be true that these self-evident truths, what are some of them? Practical knowledge. Maybe I can have one of you read, then I'll touch on that. For the key places I want you to make a note of, you read it. Okay. So if we could even assume that there are such self-evident truths that are universally applicable. His point is they are not universally applicable. But suppose we even wanted to assume that these self-evident truths are true everywhere. The fact that they apply everywhere does not necessarily mean they are innate. They can apply everywhere because we have learned to accept them generally as true. So a truth like the moral truth, the one we call practical knowledge, like it is wrong to kill indiscriminately. The ones that we call speculative principles, big word, nothing much, speculation. They're logical in nature, okay, speculative principles. Like the principle of non-contradiction. I can't say I was here, but I was not here, and mean the same thing in the same respect. That's the law of non-contradiction disobeyed. You can't say I was here, however, I wasn't here. When you mean the I in the same respect to at the same time, I can say, for example, I am here, but I am not here. Where the I in question has shifted from the physical I to the what? Psychological I or mental I. So I am physically here, but mentally, my mind is not here. That will not create a contradiction. You are in level 300. So you would have done that with grace. Listen to this. Okay. The principle of non-contradiction states that what? You cannot have a statement A and its negation, the very A's negation at the same time and in the same respect. If it is in different respect, it's a shift. I can say it is raining physically, but it is not raining spiritually. So I can say it is raining, but it is not raining. And I will mean different connotations of the word raining. That will not create a contradiction. So we know the principle of non-contradiction. What does it say? You can't say one thing and the negation of that very thing at the same time and in the same respect. Now let's roll back. So this is a principle that doesn't need justification. You don't need to tell me why you can't disobey the principle of non-contradiction. If you disobey it, our talking will be meaningless. Okay, you can't say he's a bachelor yet you want to say at the same time that he has beaten his wife. That thing. So the principle of non-contradiction is one of the principles we call what? Self-evident. They don't need justification. Take note. So it's one of those self-evident truths we have seen earlier, which rationalists of a certain group will account for by appealing to what? Innate ideas. The principle of innate knowledge. Okay, others will appeal to it by accounting for the same self-evident truth by appealing to innate concept, not necessarily knowledge. Innate, but it is a knowledge, and in other instances, innate, but it is what? Concept. Then other rationalists will still account for such truth, self-evident truth, but appeal to what? Intuition, deduction. What are some of them? Some are what? Speculative, that's the logical one. Some are practical knowledge. Some are what? Moral in nature. So you will see as you read, those who read the text, this paper, reference text, will now have meaning made. Okay. When we were discussing it, you will see metaphysical truth, logical truth, ethical truth. You see, we talked about every event must have a cause. We said it is one of what? The metaphysical ones. We talked about God exists, it's metaphysical. We talked about 2 + 3 = 5. It says analytic, it's logical. It is wrong to kill indiscriminately. We know this necessarily, we say, by our nature rationalists like Plato. And they say, when we intuit it, Yechi says, you can't accommodate the claim that we can kill indiscriminately everywhere. The very society that wants to defend that wouldn't even exist. There won't be human beings left in that society to defend that. So he's using the logic of it, potential, logically speaking, there cannot be a society that endorses indiscriminate killing, indiscriminate lying. They value it. That society won't even continue existing to come and make that case that we like lying. If we like indiscriminate killing, everybody will be dead before they start even making a defense. That's a logical analysis. Okay, so we can go on and on and on, showing the various ways that, this such self-evident truth, whether presented as what? Speculative principles, practical principles, what have you. Or if we went straight ahead and said metaphysical truth, ethical truth, mathematical truth, etc., they have been accounted for by the different rationalist views differently. John Locke, from an empiricist posturing, says that before I even propose my alternative, which is empiricism, I want to show you what is wrong with the alternative view, rationalism. Because if there is nothing wrong with it, then there's no need bringing my view. You don't fix that which is working already. You will have to bring a difference when you already can find such and such and such problems with that view. So this is what John Locke is saying. And he says, first of all, the assumption that such self-evident truths, regardless of the version you have in mind, is universally applicable. It's not true. On my screen now, keep looking. But even if I, Locke, assumed and took it to be true that they apply everywhere, the fact that they are universally applicable does not in itself therefore necessarily mean that they are innate, inborn. 2 levels of criticism. See, and you see, I've highlighted things that you should use to beef up your understanding of the text. The worry is such unquestioned assumptions, which often comes with supposed innately known truths. When you want to even critique it, that why should we assume that it is so? Say it is already what we know. You know it already if you search within. So it looks like it's unquestioned dogma. You have forgotten. If you were to reflect deeper, you know that this is a just system we are running. You will know that, for instance, the black man has smaller brain than the white man. That society stratified. Those born to be led by reason, those led by appetite, those led by emotions, and so on. So a little bit more reflection will let you know that this is how society should have been. The concern from Locke and empiricists like that, look at the highlighted passage. The fact that these so-called innate ideas could not be questioned gave to persons who proclaimed them an unwarranted authority over the minds of others and frequently led to what intolerance and persecution. This is the supposed argument line. If you say it's universally applicable, what if it doesn't apply somewhere else? It will be imposed in the name of if you searched within and reflected deeper, you would see that what we are imposing is the right one. Follow it. So the practical, impulse that Locke wants us to have an attention to, or we want to give attention to, is that as soon as any claim, any truth, any supposed dogma, doctrine, wears the cap of what innateness, says that it is already there, you don't know it, it becomes unquestionable, something that you can't question, can't critique, you can't evaluate. But he believes that if people will give themselves an inclination of thinking for themselves, paragraph 1, look up, of people who possess neither, look at this is what I'm referring, neither the ability, they don't have the ability, no, they are not inclined, they don't have the inclination to think for themselves. They always want people to think for them and say, this is how democracy must be done, this is how so and so must be done, this is how this should be, this is what justice is. Sit down, let us throw rubbish at you, receive it, it's okay. The blacks cannot come to the white church for now, women cannot vote. If it becomes something that is not questioned, and they claim, look at it, even our holy scriptures, they wouldn't even acknowledge a woman, they won't be counted. Maybe the response could be, if you reflected deeper, you will see that women are the shadow of men. It's men that have to think. Women must just follow. follow. It could be an error. But if you are told that, then it means you are reflecting to find the ultimate truth. You will be inspired by that. You are only looking for truth that, according to certain authority, unquestioned, that is, according to that authority, this is the truth you must go reflecting to find. Climb out of the cave to find the truth of what? Women being lesser creation, if you like, than men. Now, what if it is not correct? So Locke and empiricist thinkers like him want to push that, slow down. If the thing is already inscribed in our nature, then I don't need you to tell me. So there comes the critique. I'm sure that now you can reconcile the two. It must be applicable everywhere. So he brings in his argument, several of them. Now you know where to put them in. What about children and adults? They don't know it, or they don't express knowledge of it. 2, what about atheists? They don't believe that God exists. But if you say people know things and have forgotten, as soon as you display the thieves, images of thieves that have been arrested, and they say, come and view. When they see the facial marks and something, they say, is this guy. Means it was there. You just wouldn't remember. But when you get a trigger, it helps you remember. So now you can put in our objections and the various aspects, responses we gave to Locke. Children may essentially be something that they haven't grown accidental features to manage. So the lizard egg, remember that example, is essentially a lizard. It just needs time to manifest what it had always been. I jokingly told you, you're going to get the lion's baby daughter. And right now it presents as a cat, but it hasn't grown to manifest what it is already. When it starts manifesting, don't be surprised, because all this while that baby quote unquote cat that you were nurturing as a pet was a lion. It's just a matter of time. Because Plato is an essentialist, he can make that case that children essentially know they just need to what's the expression, manifest the accidental feature of it. And that can defend you, I think, to an extent. You can also say people know, but they don't express what they know all the time. So the fact that someone is doing contrary to what they know doesn't mean they didn't know. It's innate knowledge. It's not innate doing. Still in reaction to John Locke. Okay. Why? What case is John Locke making that makes us bring all this up? I said Locke can argue that if you say that knowledge is universal, why universal? It is part of our rational nature. Then wherever human beings are, they will have it. Then why are they atheists? They don't believe in the knowledge of the existence of God, which someone like Plato would say is already inborn. Okay? How about children? Who don't express knowledge of ethical truth? The mad person can lift a cutlass and cut off another human being's head and be laughing whilst he does it. But he knows that killing indiscriminately is wrong. That is the argument of Plato. Why is he doing something contrary to that? Well, Plato's response, like we said, could be what? You too, you know that cheating in an exam is not acceptable, it's wrong, yet you do. It doesn't mean you don't know. You are not mad too. You are not a child. So I gave several instances last week to connect to this. The sister would say the sugar daddy should drop him at the junction because she doesn't want her neighbors to know that this is what she did. Or if they are going to church, you say, drop me over there so that you can talk later. Call later. I'll pick later. Why? Because you know, but you do contract. Just to show you, or just to make the point. So not doing doesn't necessarily mean not knowing. You may know and have forgotten. You may know and not have the capacity to express what you know. You think that, excuse me, if someone had a special need, can't speak well, but saw the thief, Saki Beatrice, next time I'll disable your mic, please. The person can't speak. I'll ask you practical questions. Practical, not theories, to come and recount what Plato and Locke said. No, I ask you to use it. That's why I'm using it with quite a number of examples to show you. So the fact that you haven't caught someone as a thief doesn't mean he's not a thief or he's not stealing. The fact that someone presents as if he or she doesn't know or couldn't have done it doesn't mean he couldn't. There's a difference between the essential quality of something and the accidental presentation of it. There are people who are great men and women, whatever definition of great you have. But if you see them right now, you'll be disappointed. And I've said all of those in class. You'll be so disappointed because you can't see into the essence of things. That's what Plato is advocating for. And when Locke and the empiricist posture, empiricist group have pertinent questions that have to be addressed. You're trying to reconcile that. So don't distract us. Back to what I was saying. I was just showing you that so people can know and not do. People can know and may have forgotten, need help to remember. So a little trickling, what's the expression? Tweaking and switching here and there quickly will help them remember. So sometimes you do the artwork or you show pictures of thieves or armed robbers that you have, the investigative team so far investigate and parade them. And then the eyewitness is brought into the room to come and look. And then as soon as he says, hey, is that one? Why do we do that? because what is known perhaps can be triggered when we see essential, impact of that. That doesn't say necessarily that it's either rationalist or empirical. I'm just using the methodology because before you put it in there to come and remember is the issue. The empiricist thinks you needed the senses to record anything at all into your memory. The rationalist says, no, you can have some things there in mind that were already part of the package before you even started experiencing at all. That is the actual distinction between empiricist and rationalist. So the one who has come and is looking at the display of possible thieves hasn't made any claim of rationalism or empiricism. I just wanted you to see the methodology where as soon as you saw people display their faces, it helps you remember. If it helps you remember, then what does that tell you? You already knew. You just needed a trigger to help you. It tells you that the person was already a lion. She roars. She has claws. She can scratch your face. It just had not grown. So essentially, she was that. The cobras was a cobra. When the egg was, do they lay eggs? Yes. When the egg was lying there in that room, yet to be had, it was a cobra's egg. It was all essentially a cobra. That's your chicken. The eggs that you are eating. I've said this thing more than 4 times. So whenever we meet, I reference that. It has always been a whole chicken. It just hadn't manifested yet. So when you go and get 2 eggs and you fry it and put it in the bread and add sausage and spices, you have eaten 2 of your chickens. Essentially speaking, Plato is an essential. So we said all of that. Then we are trying to counter, or better still, give a response to Locke. That look, don't go far away and talk of children and mentally sick or atheists. People can know the right thing and do the wrong, or they can lie to themselves. You don't know someone who is standing by the drain, drunk, is falling into the gutter. And when you tell him, what have you drunk today too? He says, me, alcohol. Yeah, I don't drink. And the guy is drunk. But he's telling you, you should be very careful. Are you okay? There's a mad guy be that used to stand at Alaska. When he sees you, asks you, are you mad? Are you mad? Ada, just disabled your mind. Are you mad? He's asking you. And maybe he's right. In their world, all of us properly dressed, walking around, quote and unquote, are the sick people. They are right. I can't be able to be like a bat. I won't know how he's feeling. But think about it. The person is so daft, and yes, it's asking you. So this is your life. Are you going to be any better? He's the one asking you that. So there are people who know the right thing, but can either live in disbelief or in a fool's paradise. That's an expression. They think that they know. If that is possible, then even the atheist can either be lying to himself or can think that he knows it better. Meanwhile, perhaps he doesn't. So there are several ways Plato, or if you like, the innate idea thesis can be defended from the very itinerary of beliefs that the person holds on to. Now, why am I going through this one with you again to pick up whatever is left there, like I did with City Campus? Get the key issue that Locke and people like him will have. They say, one, the thing is not universal, so there are reasons why. How we worship in Ghana, just Ghana, small Ghana. Look at the various ways of worshiping or believing in God. Now extend it to the world. How can you say that we have a common understanding of God exists? For some people, when they say God, what they have in mind are deities, plenty. Some believe they are immanent. Some believe they are transcendent. Some believe there's a God that has finished creation. Now he makes no contributions with what is going on now. Everybody, survival of the fittest, he has finished his creation. He or she is no longer contributing to anything. He has set systems and structures and they are working. When you fit into the model, fine. Others believe, no, he's very involved. in his creations, watching over his word to perform, and so on and so forth. Who says then that when we say God exists, we are thinking about the same thing? This is Locke. You see how I change my level of argumentation as if I'm Locke, because I have to make sense of what he's saying. I don't have to think that or present Locke as if he doesn't have any brain. He's a philosopher, a thinker, that there should be something he's communicating. So present that. He's telling people greed. People believe that it is wrong to kill indiscriminately, yes. But there are societies that endorse killing. Of course, not indiscriminately. So that could be the counter from Plato. But if people go for war, what are they doing? Right now, the bombs that are thrown from one nation to the other, at least if we don't know at all, we know Ukraine and Russia. The bombs, are they going to beautify people's faces or they kill people? Is that one called killing or is not killing? You have to understand, yet it is going on. And nations that are praying in big tongues, Christian and Islam, and whichever version of religion, nations that call themselves that are supported. Some take bombs, some take whatever, some give defensive. To do what? To kill. Yet, we say killing is wrong. Discriminating, of course, is wrong. But this one, there will be justification, ifs and buts and what have you. That's Locke telling you that. So slow down. With this your thing that we already know. We already know what. The people are killing themselves. If you like, you leave your door unlocked. You live at a designer area B. I don't want to mention any place. When you are going, leave your car. Don't go far away. Leave your car open and leave your phones and things there. And see whether stealing is wrong or right. It's written on people's innate mind. They will show you that written RIT. She's stealing over stealing. If you don't, if you don't speak, don't worry. They know it's written. This my area I'm going to conduct. Then I come to the lecture hall to come and teach, and I'm holding it on my piece of paper. I leave it in the middle of one of the tables as I'm walking through, and leave it there. Boldly written on it, interim assessment. Saturday, she 30%. You see the sister who saw it, when she's seen like this, but she knows that undue advantage over others is not right, and it's already written on him. But she also knows that it's written there to that you for be wild. This world. Now, what before they survive? What do you want her to do? And she sees, she should close her eyes. Hey. So what Locke is saying is that this thing that you are saying is already inscribed. We are living in human society. Look on your screen. Even the conception of God, people have different. We may all be worshiping God. But who says we are worshiping the same God? Whatever conception of God there is. Plato's counter reaction immediately can be whatever version of it, there is a conception of a deity, the kind. That is the point he's making. Necessarily. They might be different gods, but the child has a conception of God. That can be a counter. Then we go to the third one. All this we have done. So we see the speculative principles I talked about. Speculative, just talking logic, practical principles, and ideas about such topics as God, substance, whatever, are all supposed to be in it. His query. Look on my screen, please. I'm walking you through that paper. I did that with me, City Campus. If you ask your kids, they'll tell you. Fully, like we are doing now. So I think that is only fair. Just in case I said something that, because it wasn't recorded, it was an in-person session. Okay. See, here. Because they are present in all minds. That's Locke's challenge. He challenges that view in two ways. In the first place, he's convinced that there are no ideas which are present in all minds. That's what the children idiot innate atheist argument is doing. To challenge the idea that such ideas are in all minds, and therefore we can make a claim that they are innate, inborn. That's why they are in all minds. We have seen how you can counter that. And then the second is, even if there were ideas which are universally present, even if Senka, this will not prove that they are innate. Two levels of what? Argumentation against innateness. That's what I've emphasized. To make his point clear, he goes further to show you how widely accepted principles can be imagined, how we can imagine how it is that certain principles, concepts, ideas are widely accepted. It might be widely accepted, like democracy. Think of that concept. Not because we have it implanted in our minds. So one of you should read that quickly. I really want us to finish this. Hey, you're still on page 1. Read just here, then the rest I'll walk you through. Whose hand is up? Let me see. Very quick. Okay, I see one hand. Tabitha, go ahead. Thank you. Very fast, Pa. Tabitha, go
In
ahead.
order to make his position clear, in order to make his position clear, Locke uses as an illustration one of the most general and widely accepted principles that can be imagined, that a thing cannot be what it is and what it is not at the same time. It is generally recognized as one of the laws of thought, basic assumptions that are necessarily implied in all thinking. Locke reasons that if there is any principle that could properly be called innate, this one should qualify. However, the fact of the matter is that there are comparatively few minds who have ever been aware of this principle at all. Certainly, the idea is not present in the minds of young children. To be sure, even an infant may know that one object is not identical with another object, and this bit of knowledge does not imply the law of non-contradiction. But a
That's
child is
imply
not
really.
aware.
That's it does imply the law of non-contradiction. So you see what he's doing? He tries to say something, then he says, even if I don't accept that one, I want to grant it. Let me grant that it were even true. It still doesn't do this. So that's how he's arguing. It's not universally applicable. But you let me take it that I'm giving you that argument. Take it that it were universally applicable. It doesn't mean necessarily that it to be innate. That's what he's doing. So he tells you that the principle of non-contradiction is definitely not implanted in the mind of children. The children argument is what we are looking at. You can take it from ethical, you can take it from the concept of God, what have you. He's taking it from the speculative principles, logic, that the child is not conscious. The child may be aware, there we go, excuse me, may know, but he's not aware. Not aware means he's not using it. And so he will say that and then now tell you that how can you know something that you are not aware of? This is John Locke. Write it down. Write it down. Because of the nature of questions I've asked you, that's why I'm pointing them out to help you see it. How can you know something, knowledge, and yet you are not aware of it? If you don't see this very well yet, remember how he defines a person. Personal identity. John Locke, no. He says consciousness, self-consciousness, and memory are the 3 things that defines you as a person, establishes your identity. And we already critiqued him and told, look, sometimes people are conscious, but they are not self-conscious. They are conscious, but they are not aware of themselves. He doesn't want to agree. So when I gave you those instances, I think in level 200 or 100, I said you can be marking and you put your pen in your hair, or the carpenter can put the pencil behind his ears and be looking for that same pencil everywhere, as the seamstresses. Ah, where's my knife? Where's my knife? I put it in the where he puts the money, the change, in front of the apron. Is there? The orange seller, she's looking for the knife. While she was putting it there, she was conscious, yes, but self-conscious, not aware of myself. I can walk past you or you can walk past me, looking directly in my eyes, but because of the way some eye a bit robbed you, or the way the girl embarrassed you in front of your colleagues, I don't know how you can see that somebody is coming that you know very well. The person is smiling at you and walk past the person, and the person hits you. Hey, Atalutu, haven't you seen me? Then you say, oh, doc, sorry. Good afternoon, sir. Or good afternoon, madam. I didn't even conscious, but not self-conscious. Uncle Locke says he cannot fathom, cannot understand how you can know something and not be aware of it. He feels that knowing implies awareness, just like what? Being. Okay, it's okay. Just like Plato's, I think, therefore I am. Did I say Plato's? Descartes, okay? He's trying to establish that the essence of thinking, mind is thinking, the essence of matter is extension. So that if you know, then you must be aware. We critique that. You can have 1,001 instances where people are conscious, but not self-conscious. That's what remembering means. You have learned it. But when you sit, you are writing, you will see the long division sign. You know the 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3 is what? The times table. What are you doing? The knowledge is there. You are helping to bring it to self-consciousness. It is latent. But Locke says, that's what I've highlighted when Tabitha was reading, to show you. He wants to build from the children's argument to say, well, you may say that children know it. They are just not expressing it. Remember, we said that. His point is, if they know, how is it that they are not aware of it? Granted that they know it, why are they not aware of it? How does he know that they are not expressing awareness? Because it doesn't show in how they are thinking. It doesn't show in how they are behaving, ethically right, ethically wrong. They are not behaving that way. The mad person, I told you, is not expressing an awareness, self-consciousness of that knowledge. So if you say it is there, latent, mean hidden, he says, how can that knowledge be there? How can you say you know, but you are not aware? That's his point. So, but the child on my screen now, please look, highlighted. But the child is not aware of it, nor will he have any consciousness of it for years to come, if indeed he ever does become aware of it. Starting point was what? To be sure, even if an infant may know that one object is not identical with another object, and this bit of knowledge does imply the law of non-contradiction, even if that child is not aware of it. So knowing and being aware of have been distinguished, says John Locke. He's saying, how can that be? If you know, you must be aware. Sister, read from the fact that, yeah, fast, and let's move.
The fact that he will give his assent to it at a later time, after the idea and its meaning have been explained to him, does not indicate that the idea was innate, even though the defenders of the doctrine have insisted that it does. If an idea of which we become aware at some later period is for that reason innate, then by the same logic we must conclude that all the ideas which one acquires through the course of his life. But to call all these ideas innate robs that term of any special meaning which might distinguish innate ideas from any others.
He says that if we will continue like that and say that, oh, he already knew, he just becomes aware of them later. So when we tell the child that, you see, you shouldn't do this, then the child will say, yes. When we show the pictures, then the person remembers. He says, if that is what you mean by innate ideas, then every idea we have will be called innate ideas, because we learn all of them later. So you are telling us, oh, it was already there. When we got a trigger from society, from whatever, then we remember. Then every idea will become innate. But innate ideas, it's not every idea that is innate by the arguers of innate ideas themselves. So then there is nothing special about innate ideas any longer. Then every idea will be innate there. Then we don't have any problem. But that's not what you people meant when you say there are certain ideas, principles, structures already implanted in the mind. What I'll wear tomorrow to buy, I'll know. buy when I start buying my own dresses. I'll know that this Sunday I've meant that pink dress, but I'm going to wear to show the people at church I'm trying to. Is this innate idea? No. That I know that I'll wear red dye hair tomorrow. Now that I know that, doesn't mean it is innate, just like every other knowledge. If every other knowledge, Christopher, I beg you, if every other knowledge is innate like this, then it has robbed innateness of its special quality. I think it's clear now. So we move on. Let me see if there is something else that is important. So what should you take from this point? For Locke, look at my highlighted in red. To say that an idea is present in one's mind when he is not conscious of it is to speak nonsense. Koto, that is John Locke. As Locke understands it, the mind and consciousness are synonymous terms. Mind is another way of saying consciousness. So if something is conscious, then that mind must be aware of it. That's why when you do philosophy, I don't know, those of you are doing philosophy of mind, you will see that you are discussing stuff like that. What it is to be a bat, Rosenta. Being conscious. So something Descartes only arrived at what? The state of mind, consciousness. I think, therefore I am. Mind is that which is doing the thinking. So it's a state of being he has established, not the thing that does the thinking. That's another discussion. Take note, for him, if the thing is in your mind, you must be aware of it because mind is actually awareness, consciousness. So the question for you, philosophy of mind student, will be, is mind the same as consciousness? Can we have a dormant mind? In other words, you are conscious but not self-conscious. Is awareness and consciousness and self-consciousness the same? You interrogate that. But this is his critique. He feels that if it is in the mind, then it must be known. The mind that knows it must be aware. Knowing and the mind are one, not one different from the other. Again, look at the principle. It must be present in the mind prior to any instruction or reflection upon it. It's not the reflection or instruction that puts it there. It must be there for you to remember. Read it and get his point. I have to move now. Look at, having shown that speculative principles are not innate. How did he argue to show that they are not innate? That's what I was asking. Then you offer a response if you think there is one. Speculative principles, logical laws are not innate. They are put there. So you see why he will now say, how did they put it there? Through the empirical sources. There is nothing in the mind prior to birth. The mind was a tabula rasa, says Eja Locke. It's an empiricist for that matter. Says there is nothing written in the mind that was not put there by the senses. Anything in mind for which mind later reflects on, or for which sensation and reflection works on to reproduce it. The original raw material was put there by the senses. He would have to have already shown why it couldn't have been already there. So these are the arguments he makes. You should be able to respond, and if you like, counter respond to enrich the debate. Okay, so he thinks that it is not innate. What is the thing? Speculative principles, logical ones, are not innate. And look, those ones should have been the ones that you find it difficult to find grounds for. He says they are not innate at all. He's made a case. How about the practical or moral ones? He deals with them, I think, even more directly, because already we know morality, the question of existence of God and what have you, can be very contentious for many people, what they think God is. Some even think God is the universe. Universal consciousness is God, not an entity outside of the universe. Something you and I, creation, we are God. I know what the Bible also says about who thinks there is no God. The fool, says the Bible. That's my reference. But we can go on and on and on. So those ones, you can imagine the contention around them. Let me have another reader read this paragraph too. Then I think we are done. I will take your Descartes thing. Thank you very much, Sabita. Let's have Naneji, I think. I saw Naneji. Naneji, read for me. Oh, I've disabled your mic. We were talking earlier. Anna, Naneji. I will allow your mic. Okay, you can unmute now, Naneji, and read for us. Thank you, everyone. There were 5 answers, I think I saw. Go ahead. Naneji, unmute first so that you can read. You have to unmute first too, otherwise we won't hear you. I don't know, maybe Naneji is struggling. Let's take Ella Morrison. Ella, unmute and read, please.
Yes, please, I've been unmuted. Please, I can't see your screen again.
Oh, it's still there, Ella. I'll stop sharing and reshare again.
Okay. It just went off.
It was there. But because you say you can't see, I'm stopping. So I'm resharing now. You should be able to see. Please read. Having shown.
I still can't see it. Please, maybe someone else.
Who can see, please? Having shown.
Please, I can see it.
Okay, so let's take Maya. Maya Bevin, go ahead.
Oh, shit.
Oh dear. Unko, no more questions, and I want to take them. Go ahead, Maya.
Having shown that speculative principles are not innate, Locke next gives his attention to practical or moral principles. It should be somewhat easier to show that these are not innate because there are no moral rules to which people give their assent. It should be somewhat easier to show that these are not innate because there are no moral rules to which people give their assent so readily or universally as they do the principles included in the laws of thought. There were, however, in Locke's days, many scholars of repute who defended the idea that the principles of right and wrong are implanted in the human mind by God, and hence they are innate rather than being derived from human experience. Locke attempts to show there is no evidence that lends support to this theory.
Very good.
This
This is what I said earlier. Just a moment, my lady. So that was what I was saying, that even the logical ones that are supposed to be so, self-evident, difficult to contest, even that he has argued against them as not being it. So you can imagine what his posture will be. And when I say his, it's not Locke per se, just the empiricist view, okay? A scientific, empirically oriented posture would really critique claims like morality is already inscribed on what is just, what is right, what is wrong, etc., are already imprinted in our mind. They say if we do that, we will have a dogmatic, unquestioning posture. We don't question anything. We just take it wholesale. But if that had been the case, women would not have been voting even in America till now. Blacks would have been, there would have been the black church versus the white church, black shop versus black children's playground versus, because there wouldn't be any questioning of what the status quo is, morally speaking, legally speaking, etc. People have to think and ask questions and not resort to, oh, that is how it is if you were reflecting, etc. So we are saying that if you are listening to what Locke is saying, he wants to argue. As for these particular ones, the moral and the practical principles, they are the ones that you can easily critique because we don't have a universally applicable one. Like the logical ones would have been. How can you say I am here and I am not here at the same time in the same respect? You don't need any evidence to tell you that that cannot be correct because of the logic of it. Even that, we have been able to say that there are other humans who are supposed to be rational and therefore should have it imprinted on their mind, but they behave contrary to that. Children, idiots, atheists. So then, the claim that they are necessarily imprinted in our minds prior to experience can be questioned. How much more the one that already, we don't see to be universal in everyday life. Get it? See there how much time I've committed to this discussion because of the possible reaction, the counter reaction, clarity in what actually is in contention. And then when you get those, now how you want to react to whether from an empiricist viewpoint or a rationalist viewpoint, you will know that this is the possible question you will be asked. How do you respond? That's where we want to get to. Then how you can apply those to everyday practical use. Please read this second paragraph. Let me see if there is something else I haven't touched on. Then we end.
This does not mean that he rejects the belief that there are valid principles or rules for distinguishing right from wrong, but he does deny that there is any sound basis for regarding them as innate.
Very good.
The usual
Continue.
The usual argument given in support of the belief that moral principles are innate is that there are universal agreements concerning them. Everyone knows, it is argued, that it is wrong to lie, to steal, and to do various other things. The awareness that these actions are wrong is said to precede any reflection or thinking about them, and hence they must be innate. To this argument, Locke replies that there is no universal agreement about the rightness or wrongness of any particular action.
It's fine. So you know what that will mean. There isn't any universal agreement. I've told you, people are throwing bombs at each other and they believe they are doing the right thing for their nation, for themselves. Some have killed the baby that wrongly came into their tummy. They believe, quote and unquote, wrongly, because they believe the baby cannot be right. The coming of the baby cannot be right. You are sitting there saying abortion is right or wrong, already inscribed, because abortion is killing of a kind. And they say, no, it's not killing. So the point is, Locke, there is no universal agreement about the rightness or wrongness of any particular action. You do applied ethics, level 400. We did some ethics in level 100, some universalizability, objectivism, all the isms. Some say relativism, some say emotivism. You saw the argument we raised against them there. It might be useful here. That it is wrong for a person intentionally to violate his agreement or to act unjustly in his dealings with his fellow humans. He says, it may appear that such agreement exists, but what? Is the extent of the agreement that we find equal? What is the extent of agreement? I've told you people are throwing. Do you know that people bring their baller to another nation? I don't want to talk personal. I want to talk national. A whole nation takes their rubbish and throws into another nation and calls it aid. And the other nation have their arms opened, willingly receiving. To the point that when they say no more importation of baller, see the demonstration in that nation. Maybe because they are hungry. Think about it, reflect. Baller. The person doesn't have a place to put their rubbish. Then you are busily importing. When you have original, correct, made in Ghana goods, they might not be everything and all, but Charlie, my own indignity is better than laboro that doesn't fit your foot and your environment. You have gone for someone's high heel. When you wear it in your rocks, you can't walk. Meanwhile, you can do nice African print. Look at the weather. You want the laboro. Okay, let's roll back. I'm talking about international ethics, global ethics, justice, economic routine. When you go to the marketplace, your own product, when you go, someone shows you how much you buy for your product. Is that just? Is that right? He says that, remember what he tells you. If you go thinking that it's innate, what is just or this is innate, before you know it, without questioning the innateness, that it is already ingrained. If you don't have a posture that asks pertinent questions, you may be being dealt with by someone's oppressive hand who is defining what democracy should be for you. When he or she or that nation has his or her own prescription, that works fine. Democracy, yes, but then there is a monarchy attached to it, for example, like we find in our British system. Imagine our current president being the king of Ghana, running a kingdom that we say we're going for, we want to model our democracy along the British one. So there's the queen and the king. Our children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren will continue to do the kingdom thing. Hey, you see the confusion. But it's working fine. And it is still a democracy for some other people. Read my thing or engage some of our discussion. You will see. I'm trying to show you. So the man Locke, in critiquing this idea of innateness, is telling you, be careful then to subject truths, whether they are labeled speculative. What is this? Keep your thing mute, I beg you. Whether they are labeled speculative or they are labeled practical or they are labeled moral, don't be inclined to relaxing and say, oh, it was discovered or reflected upon by so and so and so. It is part of our human nature. If we're only reflecting deep enough about it, we will know that this is before you know it, you have brought home a domination, a definition of development that suits the one who gave it to you, for example. So you have not questioned it. You think, oh, that is what development should mean. But if you would just question it a little, you may have a version. You will now interrogate it and see it, even in your own reflection out of the cave, and see it in a way that will work for you. So think about it. Where were we? And he tells you, so be careful not to think that what is right or wrong is universal for everyone. The principle may be, but the particular action applied, it is that fits into rightness or wrongness, may subject itself to what? Further reflection to tell. Where is it? So actually, we discovered that the area of agreement is directly proportionate to the generality of principles that are in question. I think you can do some of these readings yourself. The key things I want to show you, I've done most of them. Look at here. No one would think of giving reasons to justify their belief in the law of non-contradiction. Okay, you don't need to. After critiquing all these other principles on those two accounts, one, these are not universal after all. Two, even if we grant that they are universal, they need not be explained by looking at what innateness says. Locke, you can respond to each one of them from the innate knowledge folks' perspective. You can. And you can then counter respond and counter until you get to a place that convinces you. That's what I want you to. That's the philosopher's posturing. The affirmative side, after he has critiqued that, I said you don't fix something that is working unless you think it is broken. So you show that it is broken, it's not working well. Then now you propose yours. So that's what Locke does. Now he gives the affirmative, positive side. Says, rather than going to look for a claimed view that is already implanted in our minds, which others will discover earlier, they will say. And so they have discovered. That's why you can't vote. You sit and wait. Let the men go and vote and come. If you also think along those same lines without critiquing, then you follow that line. For years, you will be doing what has been assigned to you by those who believe that they have taught. Okay? So he says, don't do that. Rather, let's let the senses, there comes the empirical approach, gather the ideas, use sensation and reflection. You do that in empiricism when you do it next semester, or if you do it next semester. Sensation brings in the ideas, the faculty of mind that receives, there is a faculty which says Locke, so two in one. The one sensing, the one reflecting. Reflection is still an empirical thing. You want to eat your cake, you still want to have it. That's what we tell Locke all the time. Are you an empiricist or you're a rationalist? Are you an idealist or materialist? You argue in a way that makes it look as if that is what is ongoing. That's for you when you go to empiricism, you can reflect there. But here, take note, he says there is no idea that has come into the mind that was not put there by the senses. So now he tells you, look at what I've highlighted. We learn them. It wasn't put there before we came. By who? In what form? Why is it that what is in my head is different from what is in the other person's head? When you say is universal, why am I not conceptualizing the same God as Adesa? Why is someone thinking of a God that has 12 hands and 12 whatever legs or something? That's another one is thinking of a God whose image you can't fathom. Can't even conceptualize him. Uncreated creator. Yet others think of a God that is the God in charge of fertility, that needs eggs, needs sacrifice before he can give you something. And yet others are also conceptualizing a God that answers by fire. Sometimes a lion and sometimes a lamb. Confusion, basa. If the idea of God, there we go, take note, is innate, then what I am conceptualizing should be what you are conceptualizing. This is the argument he's making. Our question, counter response though, is must it be the same God, or it is just the idea that you conceive of an ultimate being who is the ultimate source of all things should suffice. Whatever you think that ultimate being should be must suffice. That is what perhaps innate ideas are focusing on. It's for you to decide. Okay. Now, I told you the last time, you say, hey, why are we these things now? How does it give? Why? The economics of Ghana, the international relations, market, world trade, IMF, COVID, and how it is managed, international health issues, all these border on people's conception of the afterlife, that there is a God somewhere or a being somewhere in charge of the world or whom we are accountable to. If we don't have a conception of that philosophically, I tell you, it won't worry anybody if they have to destroy a whole continent for the world to be okay. It won't bother anybody. So don't think that economics will be better or banking will work or IMF or whatever, politics, society, health are devoid of these discussions. These discussions are the foundations, the roots on which an international justice system bodies an understanding of a certain life beyond what is physically given, for instance, can affect how international justice systems are operating, whether to throw a bomb or not, whether to look into this continent or that continent's face and continue exploiting them or allowing themselves to be exploited will depend on what people think runs the world or who people think runs the world and beyond. If there is what? Are we free? Is there a God that is ensuring something? Are we accountable someday? This world, will we go beyond this world and pass it on to others? If there is no clarity or discussion on that, the IMF and the inflation and economics and suicide bombers and what's the other one? Those who are entering into other people's niche, terrorism and everything, it won't wash you too. You can talk all the economics, the politics. If you don't do the philosophy of it, which includes the fundamental questions, some religious, some sociopolitical, some whatever, economical, what have you, they all are the foundations on which these principles work. Look at what is happening in Nigeria now. Some are catabrowing their way into the presidency. Some are committing the judiciary system into the law's hands. Some to have gone to river bodies and they are holding their eggs. I saw someone on YouTube. I said, yeah, they are holding eggs. They don't have time for ballot box because ballot box is there. They are all scattered on the floor there. So they are holding their eggs and snap. Some two are shaking their thing. They are shaking some things. Think about it. So that is the essence of the discussion. When it goes into those areas, there's the inclination to think, oh, this one doesn't buy bread or two. You are joking. The reason why someone has put engine oil and is using that to fry the chips and the French fries and chicken and selling to you is because the person's conscience is seared. You're using engine oil. The person tells you have come to buy honey. Go and use it for your medication so that you will build a strong immune system. Not knowing what you call honey, that is in that company that has been imported, is foam that has been bent. Think about it. What kind of health system will you run when there are no pillars of morality, ethics, faith, culture, humanness, whatever, grounding it? Who will talk about those ones? A philosopher. So you need to come back. And so I'm saying that John Locke says, look on the screen and we are done with Locke. He says, we learn it. It doesn't have to be innate to have the warranty and the justification we look for. It can be learned. Now, our question to him, and I said that in the previous discussion, is if we learned it, what is the standard? Who gives us the standard of determining right and wrong? If you say, oh, the other society taught us, where did that society to learn it from? Oh, they also learned it from this. What did they appeal to? So we can go on, and it ad infinity. We still haven't gotten the starting foundations of right and wrong. That is why we may ultimately have to appeal to what? Some Locke. Think about it. Hey, some Plato, some innateness. Okay. So further elaborations here. Look on your screen when you read it. Approval or disapproval. Where do those emanate from? Keep looking. Even if they were innate, were at times violated by some persons. So when they are violated, what do we appeal to judge, to correct? Ideas that are innate remain constant in spite of changing circumstances. These ideas don't remain constant. It's still critiquing the universality, etc. We'll go to this. Enough. I think I've given you enough. You won't be cheated. Okay, on your screen. See, this one I've told you. People have different conceptions of what? A creator. Some even didn't have one until they started conceptualizing. It says Locke. Okay. Okay. So there can be the idea of God, but learned, not in it. Learn through experience. Look on my screen. I give you time to look, rather than being impressed on the mind by some other force. We learned it. So as we use them, then we come to know. That's its proposition. Everything we know is through experience. There we go. See? Read the one in the paragraph, the red one here, and we are done. I'll take your questions and we'll go to Descartes quickly. Let me take Jolinda. Thank you, my brother. Jolinda, go ahead. Hey, my lady, go ahead. Jolinda, you are muted, please. So unmute first. Always unmute before you read.
Having shown the idea of God,
We can't hear you again, oh, my lady. Just unmute and continue. I want you to read. Yes, I don't want to call another person. Jolinda, so unmute first and then read. Yeah. Ella Morrison, read for me. Unmute first.
having shown that the idea of God is not innate, it seems reasonable to conclude that no other idea is innate. For according to the popular conception, everything in the universe is dependent on God. Locke concludes his discussion of this topic by showing that the idea of substance is not innate. It might suppose that this idea is innate because it is not one that is derived from our normal faculties of sensation and reflection, and yet it is one that is present in our minds.
Very good. So if the ultimate cause of all things, the idea of an ultimate being is subjected to doubt. Not doubt as in God doesn't exist, but that we come to know about his existence through experience, says the empiricists. So you see Bishop George Buckley is a bishop. He makes a case for the existence of God, but he argues from experience. Your level 400 seniors are doing contemporary issues in philosophy. We just finished our discussion on the question of argument for the existence of God. Okay, you will see St. Thomas Aquinas. He's a saint. Makes a case for the existence of God, but he does so from an empirical point of view, from the world of experience. He says, look at the cosmos, look at the world. I think I said that last week. The world as we see it cannot be without a cause. Everything that happens must have been caused by something. The same principle then he goes by to say that, so if there is a universe like this, it must have been caused. That ultimate being brought about the universe, who caused the universe, is God. So he's arguing from an empirical position. So the fact that you say that we didn't have that idea innately doesn't mean you are claiming that there is no God. You haven't said that. Okay, so Locke can still make a claim. That is in the reading, this one that I skipped, some of the paragraphs we skipped up there. You see it there. He hasn't said there is no God, but he just thinks that if you say Obi Nchere Akwadenya, no one teaches the child who God is. In other words, it is already inscribed in their mind before they come. He says that is problematic. They can learn it from what observation tells them. Like, so I'm giving instances like how empiricists have argued for the existence of God, using what is empirically given to suggest that there has to be. So the cosmological argument from Aquinas, I just recounted that. William Paley's teleological argument, that is close to the cosmological one, except that he says, look at the world. There is organized what? Purposeful creation. Creation is organized. You see, it is not scattered all over the place. There is a time that the sun rises, the time that it sets, the time that the moon rises, it sets, whatever it is. Eh? Look at the sea, it has a limit. There are mountains. Look at the human beings breathe out carbon dioxide and breathe in oxygen. When we breathe it out, the plant takes the carbon dioxide and gives us oxygen as its waste. See that everything is purposed. There's telos. There's a brain behind things that are in creation. I told you, I think it was this group, maybe if not this class, another class. The sea has been boiling. What is this person doing? He's arguing from what is observable experience to say that if there is such design, this is the teleological argument. When you get to level 400, it happens that you are still with us. They already have some grounds. There's telos, there's purpose, there's plan, just like the clock. That's how he argues, William Paley. He's also arguing from the experiential, the empirically given world to say that there has to be a brain. There has to be a brain, a master machine. Think of it that way. A designer behind such design, such purpose, such organized. So he is not arguing that you can see God or you can touch him, but he's using the experiential to claim that there has to be a design. And it is still an empirical defense for the existence of God. Okay, so Locke does something like that, and you see why Kant, in our last 2 sessions or so, when we do Kant's transcendental idealism, the query he will have against empiricists that do not want to make assumptions about what the reality of things if they can't use the senses. They don't want to yet. Locke is doing that. You want to argue from experience. You say we come to know through experience, but you are using the experiential method to defend something that is not experienceable, if there is any expression like that. The being of God. He will critique him. That's extravagant. That's Galatian. He will tell him. Then others who are extremely skeptical, because that's him now. So he will critique those two empirical views. And I'm giving you, some inklings for those those topics. We have just 2 left, coming from Kant, basically, and how he mediates the 2 extremes, the rationalist and empiricism. He will have challenges with rationalism, making the rationalist to blah, blah, blah. He will show you what he finds wrong with that. Then he will critique the empiricist view, which had become the toast of his time. Then, after they critiqued this, and tell them that you folks too, there you go talking experience as the source, and yet you are using the source, which is experience, to make a case for inexperienceable things like substance, like the idea of God, like space and time, which are conditions that allow for experience. You don't interrogate the thing that is making you experience. Because for you to do that, you will already be experiencing, and you assume them. You will see that discussion in some detail when we get to Kant. Therefore, you will see why Kant comes to the conclusion he comes. What am I telling you with this one currently on your slide that your friend read? Just to show you that Locke, in denying that we do not know the idea of God innately, hasn't said God doesn't exist. That is not the same. He's just saying that you shouldn't say that we have knowledge of the being called God prior to experience. It is experience that better speaks to us about the being that we call God. Experience will do a better job, says someone like Locke, someone like St. Thomas Aquinas, someone like even Bishop George Beckley, someone like William Paley. These are all giving arguments in defense of the existence of God. And where do those arguments, or what does the argument appeal to in each case? It appeals to what? Experience, teleological, cosmological, etc., etc. So Locke must be seen in that light. And because he wants to eat his cake and still have it, you see the critique that will be raised against him as an empiricist, he and him. Okay. And so analysis here for you. I'm sure when you read it, these ones are straightforward. You can see it. One could see the necessity for a change in the method of inquiry. You must always have a method of deduction, heavily inspired by an inductive procedure as well. The two must go hand in hand. You can't just do pure, empty deduction. And so if it's innate, it can still be. But I don't want us to go to a different read, you see it. Thank you very much. Any questions? Now we are par. If Mohammed is here. Mohammed, I hope I covered everything I did with City. I don't see Mohammed here yet. Maybe he will join later. So I've covered everything. Any questions? Let me clear them. Then we can use the few minutes left to do our Descartes. They will all come. I see Bismarck, Amu's hand. I see Jolinda's. I think Jolinda read for us. So Bismarck, is there a question? If it was to read for me, then we are good. I can now ask you, what did you see in Descartes that makes him a rationalist? Jolinda, do you want to ask a question? Okay, your hand just went down. Bismarck, is there a question, please? Ask. If not, we'll quickly go now to Descartes' rationalism. Anybody wants to tell us? You see, I've done all the talking to you. I don't want you to be unduly dealt with for the IE. Great. So let's talk Descartes' rationalism. What makes Descartes rationalism? Rationalist, apart from what you already know about him. Let's start from what you know, and then we can build. Please hurry up. Don't sit so unconcerned like that. I don't like that. Somebody read what is on the screen for us. Let's use that to check. I already prompted for those who came in later. I wanted to tell you, keep your Saturday between 7 and 10 a.m. open, whether on-site online or off-site online. You will work on Sakai. We just want to check and see if UGCS will give us time and a space there, because I think they are a little pressed. Critical thinking will be doing the IEs over the weekend. So if there are no computing spaces that are good, I want very good computers for you, then we'll work off-site. Whichever way you are working, you're doing your IE on Saturday, God willing. between 7 and 10, 3 hours, but you use only 1 hour within the period to work. I may say 9 to 10 or 8 to 9 or 7 to 8. That's why I say keep your 7 to 10 in the morning, Saturday 11th, open for this one. Have your gadget. If it happens that you have to work by yourself, you do it. 1 hour, you are done. Short answers, multiple choice. Okay, I saw that, I think, Evan, is it a question, Maya? Please ask. Or to read for me. Melchizedek, is it a question? Tyra's hand is also up.
No,
There are
please.
3 hands up. To
I
read for
wanted
me,
to
right?
know.
Okay, if it is to read, Melchizedek, is yours also to read? I don't want to miss a question.
Yes, madam.
Okay, and Tyra too was to read. Okay, so let's one of you read for me then. Let me make Melchizedek read for me. I want the blessings of Melchizedek. Melchizedek, go ahead.
Okay. From the indubitability of self, Descartes inferred the existence of a perfect God. And from the fact that a perfect being is capable of falsification of itself, he concluded that the idea about the physical world that God has implanted in human being must be true. The achievement of certainty about the natural world was thus guaranteed by the perfection of God and by the clear and distinct ideas that are his gifts. Cartesian metaphysics in the fountainhead of rationalism in modern philosophy for the guest that the mathematical criteria of clarity, distinctness, and logical consistency are the ultimate test of meaningfulness and truth.
Yo, very good. You crucified that at some of the junctions, but we'll take it like that.
No,
No problem. If anything, Melchizedek. All right. Thank you so much. So just to give you an, this is just something I pulled out of a document. So it's almost like a quote to make it summarizes everything that you can see in Descartes' philosophy so far that we know, which makes him rationalist. From the indubitability of the self, you know what this means. How did Descartes arrive at the self as indubitable? Someone touch on that very quick because you know them already. I'm just showing you in simple terms. I don't want to go to the slides because this slide, you know it. The slide, let me show you quickly. And we'll come back to this. I have pulled all down already, but I think you know them. So, Tara, just a minute. I'll take your response quickly. Very good. I want to show folks this one. We have seen it. I don't want to project them again. See, you know Descartes. For us to understand this, please, I'm projecting now. If you would just look at it, there are just 12 pointers that help you remember everything on the question of knowledge from level 100 that we have seen. Remember the question of epistemology. What is knowledge? The epistemological view. Knowledge as justified true belief. This one appeared heavily when I was reacting to the group work that you did. Question of knowledge, how we come to know, see, the sources. All this, I'm very confident that this class knows it from level 100. No, you know it. So I'm not spending too much time on it. See, I've mentioned Bishop Berkeley, David Hume, John Locke. They are all empiricists because of what they believe that the ultimate source, the word is source, see, empirical source of knowledge is the empirical. Descartes and his gods, Spinoza, Plato, some add Leibniz, of course, are all, what did I do? Yeah, Leibniz here are what? Those who believe that the source of knowledge is reason, intellect, soul, spirit. Look, they're all there. You've seen it. This is in your slide there. How do we justify our claims of knowledge? Is the most central question that we are going to engage. See, and so in doing that, Descartes' meditations 1 and 2, which you saw in level 100, and some aspects in level 200, where you did your mind body problem or what have you. Okay. I think, therefore I am. We have revised that since we started this semester's rationalism. Almost every session we talk about it. Is there any knowledge that is certain? He was looking for indubitable truth. You know it. Why was he asking? Because the senses had not been fair to him when it comes to certainty. So he was trying to establish the certainty of what? The sciences. He wants the empirical to also have a certain degree of certainty like mathematics did or geometry did. Okay, so any iota of doubt that the senses had given him, he would throw out until he establishes something that he can know for certain. Then he would trace it to what channel gave him that certainty. So his approach was a foundationalist approach. You know that already. We've done marathons, we pray on it in class. Foundationalist approach, or the Archimedes principle. He adopted what? See on my screen, the geometrical method. Last line, think of Archimedes' geometrical point. I'm looking for a fixed point around which my epistemology will revolve. That way, no matter how far I wander around, I'm always within the range of what sanity, because the foundation is fixed. That's what he did. So it was an intentional doubt aimed at searching for certainty. You know that. How did he argue? From the limitations of the senses to the dream argument to the evil genius argument, until he finally arrived at what? Certainty. You know when he needed to bring in the evil demon argument. You know when he needed to bring the dream argument. That's your revision to do. Now, certainty at last. Anytime he thinks of it, then he's certain that he exists. Thinking here refers to mental states, thinking, doubting, affirming, denying, being deceived. All this, you know. Anytime I am being deceived, I Descartes, I'm being deceived. Then it tells me that I exist. Because I must be something, existing as something. For me to be deceived by whatever, dream, evil demon, the external, myself. I have to exist to even doubt that I exist. Certainty at last. Okay. Now this thing, look at my screen, oh, this thing that exists cannot be the physical body, because how do I know I have a body? My eyes, or I felt it, or I smelt it. These five senses have not been truthful to me, and it is prudent only to trust the source that has been truthful to me. I can't trust that the same Johnny Bravo who told me I love you like I'm a tampopo when he was telling me that he was cheating with my roommate. How can I trust him again? It is not prudent to trust a source that lied to you. So level 100 and 200, I may have used an example like the radio station said, oh, come, all those who want free laptop. Some company has come to our shop, our station here. They have 100 free laptops. Those who come in first will receive. You run the maybe radio universe. You got there. And you say, oh, we're lying. Oh. Sometimes you just do that to test and see, when you miss your IE because you're going for free laptop. Next time, in the morning, when you hear the same radio station saying, oh, now it's not just free laptop, but free cars. First come first. Will you go? If you don't go, you are right. Maybe this time it is telling you the truth. But if you don't go, it is only prudent not to have taken such a risk from the same source. This one is not only once so that the senses deceived you. Several times, from the mirage to the ruler that looked broken to the voice you heard that you thought was Dr. Miles, you went, it was J. Mohammed. I thought I heard Doc's voice. I was so convinced. To the time that you thought, now very hard examples, bear with me, that you thought that Major Mahama, when the people were stoning him, they thought they have caught a thief. They stoned the man to death. I'm told that something like that has happened to Ashaman. I just heard the news. I've not listened to news because I've been teaching since morning. People thought they saw. People thought they heard. People thought they are convinced. Senses again. It's not once. Should you go and trust the same source? No. So Descartes says this physical body I'm seeing. I see it to know that I have a body. I don't trust what my eyes are telling. Same with all the other senses. If so, then what is this thing that I am certain exists anytime it is? That thing has to be non-physical. It must be something that is not given to me in sensation. So the five senses can't give me that. Then it means it is what? That which does the thinking. So some call it soul, some call it spirit, some call it what? Mind. Some call it reason, intellect. Slide number 1. Now that is the summation of meditations 1 and 2. The 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 meditations. That just means reflections. Take you to Descartes' argument on what? The existence of God. Why, how, and why did God come in? What has God done to these people that they always bring him in? He says, look, now that I have established that mind, me, I am a mind. I am Descartes now. I am a mind. I can't talk about other human beings, the problem of other minds. I'm unable to establish that. But I, Descartes, I exist as a thinking thing, mind, soul, spirit, consciousness. Whatever you want to label it, it's not my issue. But it can be the physical me. Yet I have to exist to be able to even doubt that I exist. So I must be something paired. Call me mind or a thinking thing. So he has established on my screen now the indubitability of the self. You can't doubt the existence of the self, the mind, consciousness, that which does the thinking, soul, spirit, etc. From there, Descartes infers, deduces the existence of a perfect God. Why God? Why not the evil genius? It has to be God because the evil genius is the source for corruption. He lies. He has to be evil because he's producing deception. This is Descartes' argument. If an evil demon can lie to me, if I can conceptualize, I can conceive of an evil demon that lies to me about the table, about the dream, about 2 plus 3 being equal to 5, when in fact, perhaps 2 plus 3 should have been 1,000. If that possibility is there, remember that's the argument, then even a priori truth can be doubted. Now, if I, Descartes, I can conceptualize, take note, an evil, powerful being, evil, then such an evil, powerful being cannot be the source of what? The clear and distinct truths that I have arrived at. It cannot be the source. So, in other words, good cannot be, evil cannot be the source of evil. If I can be deceived, then I'm imperfect. I'm saying the same thing again. See how he arrives at the existence of God. It's called the ontological argument of God. Ontology, the being of something. If I can conceive of an evil demon, evil makes sense only when there is what? Good. You can't contrast, you can't make the opposition evil when you don't already have a clear and distinct understanding of what? Good. If I, Descartes, I have been deceived, then it means I am imperfect. Now, there is a but on me. Beauty. That's why I could have been deceived. I'm not perfect. Now, if I'm not perfect, that makes sense only if there is perfect. There is no perfection. You can't conceptualize imperfect. If there is no good, you can't conceptualize evil. Okay. Then this being who is good, perfect, cannot be the source of the evil that came to me. Cannot be the source of deception. He is good. He alone can be the ultimate source of the good, perfect conceptions that I have had right now. In other words, simply put, the idea of perfect, the idea of good that I am conceiving of right now must have been caused, must come from a being who is perfect, who is good. Otherwise, I couldn't have conceptualized clearly and distinctly what? Goodness, perfection. Someone will say, where did I get goodness and perfection from? But if I am imperfect, then it means that there must be perfection. It's deduction. If there is no perfect, imperfect will not make sense. Now I am Descartes and I've encountered myself as imperfect. Why am I imperfect? If I were perfect, can I be deceived? perfect means you can't have but on me. I can't be deceived. I can't doubt. I can't deny. So see, I conceive of a Descartes, conceives of what clear and distinct thoughts of what perfection. As a result of his imperfect nature, he cannot think of perfect entity, being that has the nature of perfection. Is the very thing called perfection, the very thing called all-knowing. Because I don't know all things, I Descartes, I don't know all things. Then there has to be a being that knows all things. Otherwise, not knowing all things won't make sense. It won't be meaningful. So all powerful, because I'm not all powerful. All benevolent, all good, because I'm not all good. I can be deceived. Omniscient, all the labels, the characteristics and attributes we give to God. Why God? It can't be the evil demon, because he will still have what? Bat on him. Is the source of deception. Then there has to be a being that is the source of all truth. You see how Descartes has arrived at the existence of God? God as what? The cause of his clear and distinct thought. A being that will be accountable for the ideas that he has, clear ideas that are not blurred. Which ideas? Perfection, all powerful, all knowing. How did he come to these clear ideas? As a deduction from his incapacities. So from his own existence, Descartes infers the existence of what? God. With all the attributes that, as at now, we give to God. All powerful, all knowing this. He infers that, he deduces that. I told you, intuition, deduction. So from his intuited truth about his own existence, he now deduces the existence of an ultimate, all-knowing, all-powerful God as the source of what? The perfect, clear, and distinct thoughts that he has. Okay? Now, the question that follows is from that, he says, insofar as such a perfect, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-benevolent, all the blah, 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 say, that we give to God, being sustains his clear and distinct thought. So far as this being sustains, that is, guarantees his ideas, clear and distinct ideas. So far as this being is sustaining them, then what? Then he can know even the physical world and what it produces with certainty. There comes the external world, matter. So from his own existence as mind, which is intuited, he deduces the existence of God. And you have seen how he did that through clear and distinct thoughts. Then he says, insofar as God establishes or guarantees his clear and distinct thoughts about the external world, then he can know the external world. External world is talking about material world, also with certainty. Mind to God to matter, all through what? Intuition, and then from intuition, deduction. This is how Descartes brings back into his epistemology every knowledge that initially he had thrown out as what? Not known with certainty. Now, a little challenge, or if you like, little critique you can have against Descartes. Then I'm sure that you are good to go with your reading around. It tells you that you can establish the existence of God through clear and distinct thought. Yet, why should we trust clear and distinct thought as certain? He says, because God will guarantee that. Remember, God is the ultimate cause of all clear and distinct knowledge that Descartes has. the perfect cause of this clear, distinct knowledge of, say, perfection, knowledge of what? Goodness, knowledge of all benevolence, etc., that he has. Who guarantees it? God. So, how do you establish the existence of God? I think about it clearly and distinctly, and I know that God exists. Why should I trust my clear and distinct thought? Oh, because God will sustain or guarantee that knowledge. But I thought to know that God exists, I depend on clear and distinct thought. Yes, I do. But why should I trust a clear and distinct thought? Because God, remember, God was proven by clear and distinct thought. Now, God too will sustain the clear and distinct. That is the secularity in Descartes' proof of the existence of God. That I try to help you see. Okay. And that often I've struggled to find the one who is doing the fichiri. I've gone back and forth, but I finally got you. You see that when we muted you, I think there is no feedback again. Try for me, eh? So on our screen, see, from the indubitability of the self, and we are ending. Watch. Descartes inferred, that's like deduced, the existence of a perfect God. The emphasis is on perfect. You see where that is coming from. It is from his imperfection as one that can be deceived, that he's able to conceive. Remember, he's a rationalist. We are trying to find what makes him right. He's able to think of perfection, what the concept perfect is. How did it come? If he, Descartes, can be deceived by his method, remember, we went to the method of indubitable self. When he was trying to establish the self, he went through a method, intentional doubt. I've just walked you through those slides. The slides are there for your remembrance. We did it from level 100, okay? So he now knows that he can be deceived by the dream, by the senses, by the evil demon, even by himself. It was that method that helped him see that as for his own existence, no one can deceive him about it. Because he has to exist to be deceived. So as imperfect as he is, such that he's susceptible to deception, to being deceived, as imperfect as he is, his own existence is a lie. No one can deceive him about it. Now he has established with certainty his own existence anytime he thinks of it. Then from there he says, but there's something else I have discovered in this my search for certainty. It is that I am imperfect because I can be deceived. I have doubted. I was not certain of anything. It's only my own existence. And that shows incapacity, weakness, something that I'm unable to do, which means I am not a perfect being. If I'm not perfect, the idea that I'm not perfect can only make sense. There comes the deduction. If I can think clearly of the opposite, imperfect means there must be perfect. If there's no perfect, imperfect doesn't make sense. This perfect being must be the epitome of everything maximum, all knowing. Because I don't know all things, that's why I can be deceived. All powerful. I can't do all things. That's why I couldn't overcome the evil demon. All this, all that, all that. So the being I am clearly thinking about in my armchair, drinking my wine, that being will have the absolute of everything, positive, not negative, because he cannot be the source of evil when he is the embodiment of good. You see why the problem of evil, when you get to level 400, will come up. Why is he allowing it then? By Descartes' argument, why is he allowing evil? If he can stop it, and you'll see how we deal with it there. Those who are interested can go to my academic channel and find, I think I put them in the 304 content, but it's 417. So you can search for that in my playlist and listen to what we say if you are interested. How we deal with the problem of it's straightforward. You don't have to work too much. Philosophical discussion. Okay, but roll back. So there's a perfect being that Descartes thinks about clearly and distinctly. Deduction is what that means. All chichis are chachas. This thing is a chichi. It must follow that it's a chacha. I don't know what chichi and chacha is. It's just the pattern. There's clarity in how I'm arguing. So he's doing clear and distinct thoughts. Think of it that way. To arrive at the existence of God as the embodiment of all these attributes we have just given. Then he says, through this being who will have to be the cause of the clear thoughts I'm having. He has to put it there because I'm imperfect. So he's the cause. That's an ontological argument for the existence. His being necessitates my ideas that I have. It is his being that makes it possible for me to have such clear ideas. Deductively arrived at, not by faith, not by any conjuring, no, by the logic of it, by the mathematics of it. There must be perfect for imperfect to make sense. Okay, that perfect and the idea of that perfect that I have, where did it come from? There has to be a cause of it, God. Now we are asking, and that's the end. How do I then ground the source of the clear ideas that I have? You say it comes from God. How do I believe that there has to be a God? You said because I thought clearly and distinctly about the idea of God. But why should I believe what I think clearly and distinctly about? Because God will sustain it. But why should I believe that God sustains it? Because I think clearly. You see the secularity. You use the very God who is sustaining clear and distinct thoughts. You use God to sustain his own existence. That's the secularity that you must think of. Because he tells you that it is now the fact that God sustains his thoughts is clear and distinct thought. Therefore, what he knows about the external world, matter, can also be guaranteed with a certain degree of certainty insofar as God, the ultimate sustainer of what is clear and distinct thought, supports it. He will know even the physical world with certainty. So every okay, we are finishing. I hope you can hear me. I think it was a data thing. Can you hear? I want to wrap up well for you. Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, madam.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm wrapping up. Left with 2 minutes. Let me do that. Yes. So everything, thank you
Yes,
so much.
madam.
Yes, it went for, I think, about 5 seconds or so, but I'm back. Let's finish. Listen, I'm saying, so everything that Descartes drew out of his epistemology, from scientific knowledge to mathematical knowledge to all the ones that he used his systemic doubt to throw out, now he can admit them in, but he will admit them through what? A stronger foundation. They will have conditional certainty. As far as the foundation is strong, he can now build his epistemology. So he can accept metaphysical, supposed metaphysical claims, empirical claims, deductive claims, all on the grounds of what? Reason, deduction, intuition. This makes him what? Rationalist. On your screen. So Descartes inferred from the existence of a perfect God and from the fact that a perfect being is incapable of falsification or deception. Now it makes sense to you. He concluded that the ideas about the physical world that God has implanted in human beings must be true. God, the ultimate cause of clear and distinct thoughts, will now sustain my knowledge even about the physical world. That's what I've said. You see that? The achievement, I continue now, the achievement of certainty about the natural world was thus guaranteed by the perfection of God and by the clear and distinct ideas that are his gift. His here referring to God's gift. So God gifts we imperfect beings. Descartes, I'm Descartes now. Clarity and distinctness of what ideas, even about the physical world. See how doubtful the physical world can be, but if I can think clearly and distinctly about these ideas, the idea of everything physical, I can attain a certain degree of perfection insofar as I get that idea sourced from what? God. Now, why should I believe what God tells me? Because I think clearly and distinctly to arrive at the existence of God. But why should I accept my clear and distinct thought? Because God, the perfect, ultimate source of all things, will sustain those ideas. That's the secularity that always comes up when people want to use human reason to argue for what? The uncaused causa. We'll look at it in some detail when we do the argument of the existence of God. Hopefully, if you are with us in level 400 and I get to engage you in contemporary issues, I'm done. Think around these and then read around them, search around, and you will see what else you can distill to make Descartes a rationalist in your mind, and a rationalist of which type and why. I see one hand up. I'll take that and then we are done. Elijah, class rep, Chamba, is there a question? Go ahead. You are muted, though, Chamba.
Yeah, Doc.
Elijah.
Yeah, please, can you hear me? Hello, Doc.
Okay, class rep knows how to reach me. So if it's a question, he'll get in touch. Thank you very much. Any questions? Hello. I'm ending. Any questions, please? All right, so keep your Saturday open. You do everything we've done in the course so far. We just have Kant, certainty, a priori categories of the understanding, transcendental idealism. Knowledge begins with experience but does not originate from experience. Those few things to touch on.
Yeah, please, Doc. Hello.
Ano pa siya? 5 text. Sa'yo, the last time I joined the car, I'm really anxious.
Hey, Tyra. Hello, Tyra.
Hello.
We are done, eh? Thank you, my lady. Thank you. I think that we are having network challenge. We are
Madam.
done. So thank you all very much. Let's meet God willing.
Thank you. Thank you to Madam Mouse. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a lovely week.
Tomorrow so that